everybody, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how I make homemade bread from scratch. This is a versatile recipe that I've developed myself over many trials and errors, and I found that this bread can be made with white, whole wheat, or multigrain flours. So let's get started. So we're going to start with a large mixing bowl and a 1/4 cup of warm water, not hot water, warm water. In that warm water, you're going to sprinkle 1 tablespoon of white sugar. Sugar makes yeast work, so that's why we're going to put the sugar in the water, the warm water. We're going to stir it around until we think it's dissolved, not very long. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. This is a 1/2 teaspoon measure, so I'm going to put 4 of these in. You're just going to sprinkle it over the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this recipe will make 2 loaves of bread. If you want to make more than 2 loaves of bread, you can double it, it'll work. Just use a 1/2 cup of water, and for every loaf of bread you want, you're going to put in 1 tablespoon of yeast. So we have 2 tablespoons of yeast in this warm water with sugar, and we're going to stir it around, and we're going to let it set. And while it's setting, it'll get nice and puffy, and you'll see that it's working. Okay? So this is what it looks like. I just stirred it around a little bit. And now we're going to leave it set for 10 minutes. While it's setting, we're going to get everything else ready for our bread. So while your yeast is setting, you're going to set it aside, and you're going to get a pot, a smaller pot. And in that pot, you're going to measure out 2 cups of buttermilk. 1/3 cup of honey. 1/4 cup of salted butter. You're going to take it over to the stove, and you're going to heat it only until your butter is melted. Just keep stirring it around, and you can keep an eye on it. Stir the honey up from the bottom, because the honey will tend to go to the bottom. And you're just going to keep stirring it until your butter is completely melted. Oh, we're just going to continue to stir a little bit. You want to make sure that your butter gets melted, and you want it off the stove as soon as your butter is melted. Okay, so you don't want to miss out on that. So keep in there with your spoon, stirring it around. You can see now that the steam is starting to come, so it is getting warmer. Okay, I just took the buttermilk off the stove, the buttermilk and the honey and the butter mixture. The butter's all melted, as you can see. It is a little hot, there's a lot of steam coming up, so we're going to let it set and cool a little bit. Going to take a look at the yeast, see how that's doing. This is exactly what your yeast should look like right about now. If it's not looking like that, I would suggest to start over with your yeast part. Go back to the first step that I showed you with the 1/4 cup of water, the tablespoon of sugar, and then the 2 tablespoons of yeast. Because if it's not looking like this, it's a good chance that your bread is not going to turn out. So, this is set for a little bit. It's still quite warm, but it's not hot right off the stove. It's set for about 5 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to add a 1/4, or give or take a little, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. It's going right in there. And 1 teaspoon of table salt. That's going in. Now, if you stir it around a little bit, you're going to see that the baking soda is making it foam a little. And that's what we want to see, a little bit of foam. Alright? And once it's all stirred around nice, and you see the foam, it doesn't have to be very long, we're going to dump it in the yeast bowl. Okay? There it is. It's all going in the yeast bowl. Now this is all stirred up and all happy in the bowl. We're going to start adding our flour 1 cup at a time. Now this recipe is my own recipe that I developed over time, and I found that you can use any type of flour. So if you prefer whole wheat bread, you can use whole wheat flour. if you prefer multigrain, which really turns out well for me as well, or you can use the white flour. Today I'm using all white flours. You can use half and half, whatever you want. It'll work out for you just fine. We're going to start with 1 cup at a time, give or take. We're not going to measure it precisely. Well, you'll find that in the end result, you'll probably use between 5 and 6 cups of flour. Okay, so we're going to add the first cup first, 1 cup at a time, remember. You're going to incorporate that around into the bowl. This is an important part. Don't go dumping your flour all in at once because it's not going to turn out. So once you see that there's no more powder of your flour shown, but there's going to be lumps. You're going to see these lumps. Don't get concerned about that because it'll all come together in the end. You're going to add another cup of flour and you're going to stir it around. You're only going to go 1 cup at a time. You're not going to go and dump it all in at once because your bread will not turn out. Trust me. See how it's coming together already? What you're seeing here is the gluten part of your bread. When it starts to get like this is what holds the bread together and determines if your bread is going to be light and fluffy or if it's going to be heavy or dense. You'll find that if you start to experiment with different flours that your bread will be denser. It tends to be denser you could use it for toasting more if you use whole wheat flour or multigrain flour. I find the white bread is a lighter. It turns out better with white flour if you want a nice, light, fluffy bread. So see what I'm doing now? See how nice and elasticy that is? That's what you want to see. All right, so you're beating that up there. You've got your elasticity, and that's what you want to see. Now, we're going to continue to add 1 cup at a time because now it's going to start coming away from the bowl. And as you see it going around here, as I stir it, you can see it leaving the sides of the bowl. Okay, we're starting to see dough, bread dough. All right, so you're going to continue. See how it looks. Another cup. Continue stirring it in. It's leaving the sides of the bowl. And get ready because we're soon going to have to get our hands in there. As soon as it gets to a point where it's getting hard to move with a wooden spoon, then you're going to get in with your hands. All right, so I'm about there right now. So we're going to take this and get rid of it. And I'm going to go in with my hands and just scrape the sides of the bowl and push it in towards the dough. Okay? And your dough is going to be sticky and gooey. That's perfect. That's what we want to see. We know that everything's going together fine if it's sticky. All right? So because it's sticky, I know that I have to add more flour because we don't want it sticky like that in order to bake it. So, add another cup of flour. And you're going to start kneading it in. So you're going to go around your bowl and down. Around your bowl and down. Around your bowl. Keep taking it away from the sides and pushing it into your dough. Push down as far as you can with your knuckles. Pull with your fingers down with your knuckles. Pull with your fingers down with your knuckles. And it's still sticky, don't worry. That's no big deal. We're just going to keep pulling it away from the bowl and kneading it in. All right, keep doing that. You're going to keep doing it. This is going to get all the bubbles out, incorporate all the flour. And we need to keep doing this until the dough is no longer sticky. Okay, so you can see that it's still a little bit sticky, but it's to a point now where it's starting to look a lot like bread dough. I'm going to now take it, dump it out on my counter. So now I can work with it a little bit. So now we got the dough that is not quite real sticky. I dumped it on the counter now so I can get at it with my hands a lot better because we don't want any bits of stickiness at all. We want, when we knead it down, we don't want our hands sticking to it. So we're just going to keep doing this. Pull it over with your fingers, down with your palms. Over with your fingers, down with your palms. Over with your fingers, down with your palms. And as you can see, as you're doing that, all these little bits and pieces that were in your bowl are getting mixed in as well, right? So I still have a little bit of stickiness there. When I go down and come up, I feel that my hands are sticking. That tells me I need more flour. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more. I'm not going to go crazy and dump a whole cup on because I may not need it. So just sprinkle a little bit and then continue. Pull with your fingers down with your palms. Pull with your fingers down with your palms. See? And then the flour I just put in will get incorporated into my dough. And I can feel it, and you'll feel it as well, that your hands aren't sticking to it anymore. And when this is happening, this is what you want your bread to be like. So you're going to continue to go around and do this. And see, as you're doing that, this flour that's here is being incorporated into your dough. Okay, so you're going to keep kneading. And keep kneading, and keep kneading. But as you keep kneading, this is called kneading, by the way. When you lift it over with your fingers and down with your palms, that's kneading. You hear people saying, I'm kneading my bread. Well, that's what kneading is. And what it does is it takes out all the air pockets that might be inside your bread so that your bread doesn't have holes all through it. All right, so we're gonna just keep kneading it. And as you can see, it's turned into bread really nice. Look at that. But it's still a little bit sticky. I'm finding when I touch it, I can feel stickiness. I don't want that because my bread won't turn out. So I'm going to put a little more in, and we're going to knead that in. You're going to keep kneading and kneading. Nobody said it was going to be easy. But this is giving you your workout for the day, right? Kneading and kneading. And as you can see, the flour is being incorporated, all the flour that I put out. And you know what? It's not sticky anymore. I don't feel it sticking to my hands when I knead it. I'm feeling something like a nice smooth dough. Look at this. So, when you turn it over, you get that nice smooth, that's what we're looking at. My hands aren't sticking to it. Now, that's a perfect bun of bread. So, now, what I've done, the mixing bowl that I made the bread in, I took it and I rinsed it out under warm water, so it's a nice clean bowl. You don't have all that stuff left in there. That was when we took it out of here. So I took it and I rinsed it all out. The bowl's nice and warm because I've done it with warm water. I'm going to give this one more knead because I want it to look really nice and smooth on top. So you're bringing it all into the center here. You bring it all into the center and then take it and lift it up, wipe off any excess that might be on it, and lay it into your nice warm bowl. Okay? Then what I'm going to do, just because I don't want my saran wrap to stick to the top of my bread as it rises, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit of oil over the top of it. Okay? That's making it nice and shiny, and it's making that nothing will stick to it, okay? Because you don't want that to happen. Then you're going to take saran wrap or plastic wrap, it doesn't have to be saran, and you're going to lay it loosely over the top of the bowl. Okay. There you go. So the saran wrap or the plastic wrap is on top of my bread and it's by a warm oven. Now, what you're going to look at is where your bread is in the bowl. And what you're looking for is your bread to rise, that it's double in size. When we come back to this, it's going to be up over the bowl, and that's when we start to put it in our pans. My bread's been raising now for an hour and 15 minutes. I checked on it and it's right where it needs to be. It's over the bowl. As you can see, it's double in size and it's ready now to be punched down and put into the pans in which it will be baked in. So I'm going to take some cooking spray and spray the pans in which I plan to use to bake my 2 loaves of bread in. I like a nice loaf like this. And for dinner tonight, we're going to have a round loaf. So I've decided to use just an ordinary pie plate. I'm going to spray that as well. Now we're going to take the bread, take off the plastic wrap, a little bit stuck, that's no big deal. We're going to punch into it. And you're going to start kneading it like I showed you how to knead it earlier. You're going to knead it in the bowl until it's all kneaded down. And you're going to bring it out on the counter. Continue to knead it. As you can see, it's a little bit sticky. So I'm going to put some flour over it to stop it from sticking. So it's a bit sticky, it's sticking to the counter. So what I'm going to do, put some flour in there and start kneading it again. And this does happen sometimes. Your dough will expand and get nice and high and it'll start to get sticky, but you don't want it to be sticky that you can't handle it. Otherwise it's not going to raise properly and it's not going to turn out for you. So and you can hear the bubbles coming out, the air pockets, as I'm kneading it. And you can see as the flour's going in it, it's not sticky anymore. It's starting to leave my fingers and the counter. And you can hear it popping. That's the air coming out. So I'm going to continue to knead it. Nice smooth dough. And then you're going to cut it in half. Because you're going to split it half in each pan. You work with 1/2 at a time. This one's going to need some more flour because it's sticking. You don't want it to be sticky. You're going to incorporate the flour by kneading. Pull up with your fingers and down with your palm. Up with your fingers, down with your palm. Keep going around over the flour that you got in your surface. And you can hear the air leaving it. That's going to make your bread, but there's no big air pockets in it. You want to knead all those out so you get a nice texture when you cut your bread. So as long as you hear that popping when you're kneading it, you know you're getting them out. So keep kneading it and your dough will be nice and smooth like that. And then I'm going to put this one in this pan. And what I like here, there's a part, when I make my loaves in these pans, I like to make two little side-by-side loaves in it, because there's a middle part when you put them together, when they cook, it happens to be my husband's favorite part of the bread. So I always put, when I make a loaf, I make it like this. But you can take it and make it all in one loaf like you did here, and you can put it in there. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. So we're doing the same thing again. We're kneading that extra flour in until my hands aren't sticking and it's not sticking to the counter. And you can hear the air coming out. Hear it? And now I don't hear the air anymore. I got a nice smooth loaf. I'm going to roll it under, wipe off the excess flour, and lie it in the pan. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. You can see it's sticky. And you're just going to keep adding flour until it's not sticking to your hands or the counter anymore. You're going to knead with your fingers and your palms. Fingers, palm, fingers, palm. And you're going to push down. And when you push down, you're going to hear the air leaving and you're going to feel it. And you want all that air out of that because you don't want holy bread. Sometimes if you don't get it all out, you'll see big pockets when you cut it. You don't want that kind of texture. So as you can see, I don't hear the air, I don't feel it anymore. It's a nice smooth texture. I'm just going to roll it into itself. And there you have it. Now the part I was telling you about, and this will raise and double, remember. And this part in here is the part I was telling you about that my husband likes. So that's why I put two little ones together in this pan. But you, like again, you can make it all in one. So then what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of the cooking spray, spray over the top of it, and we're going to turn it back over on top of my stove. Now that the bread is covered, what I always do is I like to let it set on top of my burners because I don't plan to use my burners. And I turn my oven on to 375. So while the oven is heating, that heat will radiate up through my oven into the top of my stove, and my bread will rise quicker. What I'm waiting for is my bread to get double in size, and then once it gets double in size, it'll be ready to bake. A half hour's gone by now. I checked my bread. It's well over double in size. Now it's ready for the oven. take off the plastic easily. And again, I got my oven preheated, 375. And I see we got a little problem here. It's stuck a little bit to the plastic. And I hope this doesn't affect it too bad. I'm just going to take it off easily. I didn't have enough of the spray on. That's all that happened. So I'm going to stick it in the oven. 375 for about 45 minutes. I'm going to check it in 30, and what we're looking for is a nice golden brown, and when we tap on it, it'll sound hollow inside. It's been 45 minutes. I'm going to check our bread. It looks amazing. Good way to check to see if your bread is done is if it's nice and golden brown on the top, and if when you touch it, it sounds hollow inside. That's what you're looking for. So by the sounds of this and by the looks of it, it's ready to come out of the oven. Bread is now out of the oven. What I've done is I took a piece of plastic wrap, put some butter on it, and I'm just going to go over the bread lightly with the butter to make it nice and shiny. I'm going to do both with it. It's still quite hot. Just come out of the oven. Now, flip it out right away because you don't want it to sweat in the pan. You want this to, when it starts to cool, you want it to be cooling and you want it nice and hard all around the outside edges. So, flip that one out. Thank you for joining me today and letting me show you how I make homemade bread from scratch. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you soon.